Hi, I'm Andrea Raleigh, and you're listening to Notes from That Writer Mom. Today I'm reading you a piece called On Self-Doubt and the Fly I'm Finally Able to Shoo Away. It's Tuesday. I wake up late. The baby was up all night. Teething? Growth spurt? I don't know. I wish my spouse a good day at work as they head out the door, then get my toddler ready for daycare, dress and pack up the baby, load us all into the car, and hurry back into the house for my phone and coffee. I drive us to daycare, where I carry the car seat and baby in with my toddler's backpack and dolly. The driveway is slick with a thin layer of wet snow, and I pray nobody slips. Inside, I say goodbye and I try to give my toddler a few seconds of one-on-one attention while we hug. At the same time, I'm watching that the other daycare kids don't poke the baby's eye out. They're always so excited to see the baby, to tickle the baby's cheeks. I remind them that they can touch the blanket, not the baby's eyeballs. Back in the car, the baby and I coast down the quiet, slushy road, and I watch an orange cat trot after a large group of California quail. Plump little brown birds with a top knot of feathers on their heads. I drive the baby and I to a slew of appointments and errands. We go to physio and a wellness check. We pick up extra winter gear at the thrift store because I realize one winter hat, etc. for daycare is not enough. When it's wet or missing, we need a backup. In a household with 2 children, my we don't need a lot of things boundary has been chipped away and is barely visible. We pick up bananas and berries and bread and jam, grocery items we seem to plow through right now. Between stops, I sit in the car and I nurse the baby. When it gets cold, I run the engine for a minute and say quiet sorries again and again to the earth. After our last appointment wraps up, the baby seems hungry again and ready for a nap, so I sit in the car to feed them. I haven't had any time to write, so I decide with 45 minutes before daycare pickup, now is a good time as any to craft a sentence or two while I nurse. When I pull out my phone, I see a text from my spouse. Coffee? No time, I reply, and then remember my therapist telling me to take whatever time I can get with my spouse. Even 5 minutes, she said. Marriage is hard, so I text again. Actually, okay, 20 minutes is better than no minutes. Plus, I like coffee. I put the baby in the car seat and decide to feed them at the cafe. By the time we arrive, only a handful of minutes later, they've fallen asleep. I head in feeling really bad, fretting over how hungry the baby might be when they wake. I try to do quick math in my head. How long has it been since I last fed them? But it's all jumbled numbers and letters. I'm so tired. And I turn instead to my instincts, which tell me everything is okay. The baby is safe. I can sit down for a minute and chill. I was surprised to find myself at the cafe sitting beside my spouse. These days, it's very easy for me to say no. Like, life can feel too busy for anything not on the to-do list. I'm sleep deprived, I'm always hungry, and there are whole days, sometimes back to back, when life revolves around the needs of my family and it feels very overwhelming. No, I can't make it to the gym. No, I can't write or edit. No, I can't call you back. No, I can't squeeze in a coffee date. I tell myself that I use no as a boundary tool to stave off burnout. It doesn't always work. With too many no's, I find myself lonely and isolated, talking into a microphone alone at the kitchen table, just so I can hear another adult voice. Spoiler, it's my own voice. Plus, no was once a harbinger of my self-doubt, the spark in a long line of unhelpful thoughts, and on tired, busy days, this thinking pattern sneaks back in, without me even noticing. Can I do this thing? No, you can't, and here are all the reasons why. That's my inner voice. For much of my life, it's been quite a Grinch, a cynical, green, furry creature with a heart 2 sizes too small. Thankfully, I know where this comes from. I possess dreadful, relentless childhood memories, the root cause for the voracious self-doubt I have harbored in my body. Having adverse childhood experiences will do this to a person, cause internalized negative thought patterns, imposter syndrome, and low self-worth, for example. There's a popular psychological equation, the Gottman method, that argues for a relationship to be successful, to be loving, every negative interaction needs 5 positive interactions in order to outweigh the negative one. I spend more time than I'd like to admit in search of positive childhood memories. When I cannot find enough of them, the Grinch returns. There is something wrong with you. One of the greatest gifts I believe I have given my children is each other. As an only child of divorced parents, the world has often felt as though it has left me to traverse its starkly vacant, unyielding fields on my own. I have for a long while wanted a sibling relationship, a witness to traverse family life together. In place of a sibling, I created this stubborn, grouchy voice who loves to tell me I'm not worthy of anything worthwhile. Self doubt and the many identities it masks as has co opted much of my life. Self doubt turned me away from writing for over a decade. It told me to keep my garbage ideas to myself when I worked as a writing assistant for incredible, talented people. It kept me silenced and saying yes to working for a film professional who physically harassed me in front of an entire film crew and then pretended I didn't exist the moment I turned down a contract to work with them. Self doubt, the Grinch, told me all of this was okay. It's not. Self doubt concocts fairy tale demons that appear the moment I share my work. It encourages me to second guess every decision I make. It had, for the early years of my adult life, plunked me down on the heavy end of a pendulum so that, in order to combat it, I believed I had to be wildly impulsive. If I didn't just do it, I wouldn't ever do it. Self doubt so far is the worst troll I have encountered. When I became a mother, self doubt continued to shove me around. It propped up my anxiety and presented it to the baby as proof I was a bad mom. It would form questions and then answer each question before I had a chance to consider the validity in each scenario. Your baby's crying. What did you do? You're not tender enough to be a mother. Did they scratch their face again? You're not paying enough attention. You're so selfish. Are they sick? If they get sick, if they catch something from someone, if anything happens to them, it's going to be your fault. I'm writing about self-doubt because it's rearing its head again. The more I lean into this project, a newsletter, a podcast, and my plan to build both, the more I hear the voice in my head articulate all the ways I'm going to embarrass myself. Your podcast sucks. You sound dumb and nobody cares about what you're going through or what you have to say. But if I take the time to let my pieces simmer, to edit them, to make them richer and cleaner, more robust, stronger, I'd never put them out. Not right now. The purpose of this, I remind myself, is to do something with this work, not to sit at home, write, and stay alone and lonely with all of this. But you're becoming that person who only wants to talk about their children. Annoying. I hear this thought like it's a disgusting thing, to love and dote and live in awe of your tiny humans. Self-doubt tries to quell my love with this thought, but tone will not destroy the truth. I love my children wholly and unconditionally, and I will talk about them to anyone who will listen. And my self-doubt has a response to that. It's kind of like Larry David's staple comedic reaction, his indifferent, mildly annoyed, impartial shrug.
What do you think, Larry? Eh? What do you mean, eh? Eh?
2 years into motherhood, self-doubt feels a little less sticky. I hear the intrusive thoughts, and I, even to my own surprise, bat them away like, shoo fly, don't bother me. Like, okay, boomer. Like, my whole valued self pulls up in a 1967 Monte Carlo. I've always loved this car. And says, get in, loser, we're making a podcast. Motherhood has given me the opportunity to reparent my inner child while I raise my two tiny humans. I think this is a form of parts work, which is viewing the self as comprised of multiple parts, each with its own unique experiences, responses, and needs. So I have been able to somehow unglue or separate myself from my self-doubt. The voice, oddly, no longer sounds like me, but a distant, infectious virus I caught while traversing an adverse childhood. Like before motherhood, I'd label the voice as mine, but now it's the Grinch. And the best thing about the Grinch is that he's a redeemable character. Time in motherhood is precious. I don't have enough of it to entertain a long string of harmful, untruthful thoughts. If I have a 45-minute nap to articulate my experiences with self-doubt, then that might be all I'm getting. I have a lot of other things to do. And in having a platform to explore a writer's life while mothering, I think it's important to acknowledge how easy it is in this environment to tell ourselves no. To tell ourselves we have no time or capacity or ability or anything worthwhile to share. Our brains, which prune and morph after pregnancy, are busy forming new neural connections. Connections we can use to reprogram the voice that might tell us our work right now in the thick of early parenthood isn't good enough to share. Here's a quote from Greer Kirshenbaum. She wrote this book called The Nurture Revolution, Grow Your Baby's Brain and Transform Their Mental Health Through the Art of Nurtured Parenting. Quote, we can repeat what happened to us the way we were programmed to parent, or we can change by consciously nurturing and taking advantage of this adult neuroplasticity that occurs as we become parents. When we immerse our developing parenting brains in oxytocin from nurture and create conscious changes, we can dramatically reshape our amygdala, hippocampus, prefrontal cortex, and insula toward mental health. End quote. Here's the truth. So I pull up to the cafe listening to my own podcast. My window is cracked and there are people sitting outside on the patio. The sun had come out. My cheeks flush cherry red as I turn down the volume when I put the car in park. Oh God, how embarrassing would it be to be caught listening to my own voice through the car speakers? Oh my gosh. The people on the patio don't know me, don't know my voice, don't know that I'm listening to myself talk, but I feel wildly embarrassed anyway. I turn off the car, carry the baby in, and sit down in the back corner, desperate for a shell to crawl into and hide. Then my spouse sits down beside me with 2 seasonal lattes. I take a sip, and I tell the Grinch to shoo. 5 positive interactions with myself, I think, to shoo away the negative thoughts. The baby is safe. The coffee is delectable. My spouse is smiling. I have given myself 10 minutes. And my podcast? Hey, I've heard it. It's not that bad. Thank you for listening to Notes from That Writer Mom. If you, too, have been trying to reprogram that small, insistent voice that tells you you're not ready, not enough, not whatever, I hope you remember that this is a tiny, buzzing thought you no longer have to entertain. I'm Andrea Rowley. Thanks for being here.